Alright guys, welcome to the stream.
Yes, welcome all. To continue our trek, I guess, on Dirt Track of Charlotte.
And today I'm going to be working on some of the billboard objects, as well as hopefully getting some of the uh, drag strip grandstands textured.
And as I was telling you, James, offline there, I had to put together some type of a wall logo to put on this wall here because it was driving me crazy. Show that. Just double checking with you, James. Is your channel offline? I'm just making sure because I see mine going.
Yeah, it just started. Hang on.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Hang in with us there, guys. If
Alright, looks like we're up.
There you go. See your Xfinity car. That's a nice car too.
Yeah, I definitely can't wait for this to come out. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're doing a great job on it, looks like.
Yep, with the Team Omega, they got their 15s out. Obviously, a lot of work was done on the Toyotas. That mod. Anyway, this is the logo I came up with. That's under the starter stand on the front stretch, obviously. And the picture I went by to give me some clarity, I guess, on this or some justification. I'll show that up here in a second.
And like I said earlier, I'm going to work on some of the billboards in turn 1 and 2. I've already got the models started, and I'm just going to work on some of the textures now.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool idea. I know you had showed me offline there about there's so many billboards, I guess, in that area. That little HTM table that you come up with, I guess, to sort out, I guess, what was what, so that when you go to paint it, just refer to that.
Yeah, I'll just go over that quickly. What I did was just went through the collection of screenshots and videos, and normally would just kind of jot it down on a piece of paper and a notepad and try to keep track of it that way. And it ends up being a mess. You end up losing the piece of paper halfway through it and all that kind of stuff. So I was going to use Microsoft Word. I didn't have Microsoft Word installed. Went through my programs and saw a front page was installed, so I just ended up creating a table on an HTML file, just a simple table, um, and labeled the billboards. There's 9 billboard objects in total with 4 billboards on each one. So I gave each individual sponsor spot a color, and then created all the objects and the textures to correspond with that, and then laid out a grid and started going through all the pictures and videos and just started writing down what I saw as I saw it and started making sense of it that way. And it's a whole lot easier to keep track of.
Yeah, really good tool, and also being able to share it. Obviously, you were able to send that to me so that we could be both working on literally the same sheet of music. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and if you don't have Word installed or you have a different version, it might not be compatible or something like that. So everybody can open HTML files.
That's very true. I'm just refreshing my feed here real quick. I see TPIR got chatting in there. Welcome to the stream. And in case you missed or whatever, obviously we're still working on continuing to build on the dirt track at Charlotte. This picture I've had up here. This is the reference I went by. I don't know if you can see that in your feed, James. This is what I was talking about. It's got the car. This is what's beautiful about pictures that you find to get some scaling. It has the car that's obviously next to the logo on the wall, as well as the starter stand. So to give you some sense of scale of how big these things need to be.
Right.
So this is the picture that I went by, and this is what I have thus far, as far as sandbox. Now, from this perspective, obviously, can't get it exactly, I guess is what is in the picture, but it's under the starter stand. And my first thought when I put it in here is to actually make the starter stand, I guess, not quite so wide. It needs to be a little skinnier. So that might be something I do, but I think even if I do that, just messed my screen up. I think even if I do that, it's still going to require me to stretch the Charlotte, the text, and the SMI logos, I guess, just a little bit. My initial thought. Now, if I had an actual model of the sprint car itself, that would be even better. I probably could get one, but seemed to be a lot of trouble just to get that in here. Suppose I could get the sprint mod, take some. We did do some testing on the track. I know you and I both. I did it I tried it in the trucks. Not sure which mod you tried it in, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Just quickly showing the texture, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the red, white, blue, and yellow on the texture. And I created each one of those textures for each one of the 9 billboards.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Okay, yeah, that gives you really good reference as to what goes where. Now, is that for each row? That'll be for each row for top, middle, bottom, obviously.
Right, and it's separated by track side, which will be red on top, white on bottom, and then the back side, which will be blue and yellow. Blue on the top, yellow on the bottom.
Oh right, yeah, we did talk about the back sides too. Whether or
Not
not
100% sure if we're going to do the backside, but if we can get all the information, we'll go ahead and do it.
right. Yep, that was. Yeah, we spoke of that. So that's where I am so far, and also like I mentioned you offline, James, is I adjusted the track surface, the texture for that surface. I also adjusted when applying this wall logo. I adjusted the how high the dirt climbed up the side of the wall facing the track. It was just a little bit too high. Looking at a lot of the pictures, the actual pictures there's not a lot of dirt splatter as much as I had it. So I adjusted that as well as I smoothed out the edges because it had that somewhat of an anomaly there, as far as like you could tell where it was stopping and starting again. Still see it
Okay.
just barely, but I think it looks better. One thing I was thinking of, I guess, with doing this too is like common thing I tend to do myself with doing these dirt track builds is to eliminate the groove, the racing groove that gets applied in the game based on the last race line, that dark area, I guess like that. I was almost thinking what I might try to do is when we get to the point of building the LPs, I would actually use that to create that dark spot, like right in the racing group as far as where they race.
Oh yeah. Well, I know you can get rid of it completely by just recording in very slow, moderate steering wheel inputs.
You can do it that way, or what, like I did with the Eldora build, is there's an actual MIP um, shared, obviously, but you can put it directly into the track, and you can just completely trans it out and eliminate it that way too. So more than one way to do it, and just going by a lot of my experience when I did the Eldora build, as far as that works. So there's ways you can do it. I mean, even if you wanted to take a groove out of a track that has one, like even an asphalt for that matter, if you slap in a groove and just trans out that groove MIP, it'll take it away. So just something I'm thinking ahead as far as what type of applications we could do for this. I think it would look really neat on this, the way I've got this so far. And we also were talking offline, lots of stuff offline, obviously. Um, when I went to go apply this wall logo under the starter stand, this segment is like one complete segment from this opening here for pit exit. And in the process of adding another text segment to the wall section there, the wall end that I'm pointing at right now um, tends to get messed up. And the, up until now, the only two best ways that I've found to fix that problem, since you can adjust it in the UVs when you apply a texture to a W section. Whoops, let me select the W section. Okay, that's the clay. Okay, here we are. Okay, right now I'm on the top of the wall. Switch it to the left side. Okay, so you see what I've done here is it starts off as a wall dirt, which has no logo up until I added this segment, and it's at 28 meters up. That's where it starts, and it's this wall logo. It's Wall Speedway. But in the process of doing that, because this is a wall opening here, it's a wall end. What happens is the texture, you're not able to get it to show the way it's supposed to if you put the UVs the same way. And like as I was saying, up until now, the only two ways that I have found myself, I guess, to fix that is to, number one, create an object, a 3DO of sorts, and apply the texture that would normally be on there so that it would it doesn't uh, look like it's messed up, or to basically split the segment so that this wall end will be in its own segment, and it'll show fine without having any additional text segs. And then when I say text segs, in case you're not aware of that, what happens is like when you're on a wall segment, you have the ability to add a segment so that you can move it up the, and I'll show this really quick too. Right now I'm at the beginning of this wall segment right here. Show you that in here. This segment here is what I showed in the camera view. That's from here all the way up to about where that caution light's at. And what happens is when you're in a segment like that and you add, as you can see it changed here, that's because I got a wall segment in there already. I'm going to do it this way I can show you. I'm going to take it completely out. See, now I've just deleted it, so now it's only got one text seg in that wall segment, that wall section. See how this wall end shows up properly now. Now, when you go to add, and like I said, this only happens when you have a wall end like this, not necessarily when it's a continuing wall section. See, when you add, it automatically will put a 0.25 to start off with, but then you can scoot it up. If I change this number, just type it in and then just X out of it. And you can see how it scoots it up here. Now I'll have a hole as to where the next texture will start. And as you can see right now, I'm in TexAg 2, which is what I just added. I'm on the left side, that's facing the track, and I have no texture yet. So if I wanted to apply a texture, hold the pull down, and I want to put my wall speedway. And at first, there's nothing selected as far as the proper parameters on the UV to make it show correctly. So you check on the override default text params, and it highlights all this stuff. The first one, and usually on walls, the only one you really need to use is the U. And what that does is it allows you to adjust left to right. Right now, the default is a 10.16 on the texture size. That means it basically takes your texture and blows it up 10 times, to put it simply. So I'm going to put this at a 1. I want a 1-to-1. As you can see, now you can see the end of it, that texture. And then I'm going to skew it. I'm trying to remember what I had it set at. I've got this saved, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, that looks pretty close. All I did was in that same line as the U, I've already applied the 1, which is a 1-to-1 texture, and have slid it up basically 5 meters in a sense. So now it lines up with the next segment. This is kind of straddling 2 different segments here now. Now I'll go to the top and finish this up here. Top facade. And I'll put my wall top on. I'll show the right side. The right side doesn't have anything on it yet. And I'm going to put different texture on this side. This is the back side of the wall. And I'm going to put that at a 2. You could put that at a 1. I found with the texture that I'm using there, it looks better with the 2. So that's basically just taking the texture that I have and just putting it up 2 times as big. Okay, so now I've got that back in place. But as I said here, when you do this the same way when you have a wall in like that and you add a text segment to it, it messes up this wall in. So probably what I'm going to do here, I think the best bet is I'm just going to split that segment and have this wall end be in its own segment by itself so that it'll show that wall end correctly. You do a good job in those logos, James. I see you peeking over there looking to see what you got going on.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a .svg, and I can't download it in Firefox. I'm trying to figure out how to get it copied.
Oh, an SVG? Oh, that's interesting, because usually I can get those.
Yeah, when I right-click on it, it just says copy or select all.
Huh. Well, it might have to do with the site that you're trying to get it to. They might have that that function disabled.
Yeah, my mouse is going crazy the whole time it's open.
Is it that big?
It's like 2400.
Oh yeah, that's a nice size one.
Yeah, it's perfect, but I can't seem to get it.
Did you try doing a screen capture?
It's bigger than the screen.
Oh, dang it. Zoom out maybe a little bit.
Let me try that here.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go.
What'd you do?
The zoom feature in Firefox, you can control minus to
Right.
zoom out.
Right. That's what I was getting. That was what I was getting at. Okay. What I'm gonna do here in this segment, I'm gonna split it. I know, we talk about this all the time, James, as far as like my loathing, I guess, of splitting tracks when it's not necessary. But in this case, I feel it is necessary.
You just got to pay attention to all the results of what you're doing.
Yes, that's very true. And also, like we were talking for a dirt track, the fact that it's already bumpy, um, it's got anomalies in it. Anyway, it's not so bad. And you can also, I'm going to show that too once I get this split. I can create a different property because right now this is grass. I can put dirt in there, and so anytime when you're racing across that particular split segment there with a different property, I'll apply dirt to it. It'll bring up a puff of dirt. It'll give it some effect there. Okay. So all I'm doing right now is I'm in the segment that I want to split, and I'm right clicking. It brings up this menu, and it has an option here to split segment. So I'm going to click that. And what it does is it brings up another bar that you can move, as I'm doing right now, and you can tell it as far as how big you want to split it. If I want to go really small, split it in half, go the opposite way. What I'm going to do is just split it within a couple meters of the end of that wall, like so. Now what this does, obviously when you split like that, it's going to change textures. Show you that. See how you can see on the back side of this wall when I split that, you can see the differences in between the two textures now. So you have to adjust those, which I'm going to do right now. Oops, I gotta select that segment. Okay, right now I'm on the fence. Alright, there's my wall. There's my backside. Now that first part there on the wall end will be fine. That's set to 2. Top is at 1. Left is at 1. So that is fine. I'm going to fix the wall end. I think I'm going to double check that. Yep, that looks fine too. So it's everything beyond. So I'm going to go to the next segment, forward. And as you'll see, I'm on the left walls right now. I'm going to go to the right. What it does when you split a segment, it automatically, in most cases, will put on the walls here, it'll put this 508 on the V, but you don't need it. So all you got to do is just uncheck it, or just check it, and it'll go away.
Can't tell you how many tracks that we download. And we're not bragging on people for doing that. It's easy to miss. We've done it ourselves, but can't tell you how many tracks we drive around that people have released and called done that haven't gone around their walls and done exactly what he's doing right there.
Right, and that's the hope with these tutorials, to get people to understand. It's not that it's an ignorance. It's just maybe not possibly knowing that's what happens. So it's like only paying attention, and it's commonplace. It's common to think that the only thing that makes um, any big deal is the fact of what you can see when you're on the track. And as far as putting quality stuff out there and just going over all these little details, it's hoping these tutorials, I guess, will allow for that. And one thing I am noticing is because that segment is so much smaller, you can see the difference between how that texture is, because the way it has to stretch it across the segment is basically how that U and or V, in this case it's just a U, how that affects the texture. And you can see, because this segment is so small, that the texture actually shows up differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust that texture so that it matches. That's a 3. That's a 4. See, and as you can, I don't know if it's hard to see that, but let's see if that helps. As I adjust this, you can see this seam here. This is on a 2. And right now I've got this segment here, and you can see right where it ends, which is right here. And I've got it at a 4, and you can see the same seam. That's the same texture as this one in this segment. So I might just split the difference here. Put it at a 250. I might even go through and just change the backside of the walls to that later on. But for now, I'm going to leave it like that. But you can see the difference. Yeah, this side's going to be the same issue. Okay, it starts off as the dirt. And that might be part of my problem too, because I still have the 2 text eggs in that one I just split. So I'm going to try that, take that out. I think that was my problem. I just answered my own question there. See, what happened was, and yeah, sometimes I lose sight of that. What happened was is when I split that segment, the segment that I split, it had the two text eggs in it, which means um, copied basically everything that was in that segment that I split into that small segment there, right, that includes that wall line. So all I had to do is delete that in there, and now I'm gonna go back to this backside again.
And that goes back to having to pay attention to every single thing that you're doing when you're splitting.
Yep.
You can easily get yourself into trouble there.
Right. Now, had there not been any additional text eggs in that wall segment, that wall section there, I wouldn't have had that problem. I wouldn't have had to go through that, but in this case I did. Now you can see how that matches now. What it was basically trying to do was take those 2 text eggs and try to squeeze it all into that little segment there, that section that I split. This section right here, I'm showing right here, was trying to squeeze both text eggs into that little segment. It was doing the best that it could, I guess, to show those based on the U values that I put in there. By removing it, it didn't need to do that anymore, so now it's correct.
Just in case anybody's wondering why I'm shrinking the logos and not making them 100% accurate, the texture that I'm using is going to be stretched out a fair bit on the actual model. So I want to actually paint it where it's a little bit skinnier than it's supposed to be. That way when it's on the object, it'll be the right size.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. You're still working. You're still working on the 2048 by 1024, I think it was, template for the billboards.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that's what you said.
And that goes back to the reason for that painting in this manner instead of actually making it exactly the right size for the billboards. You're limited to the actual MIP size, or the background, or the actual image size would be has to be specific sizes. So if you paint it, in this case 2048 by 2048, and the end texture is not going to be that big, by the way. But if you paint it 2048 wide, it will end up being too wide and being stretched the other way. To save on hard drive space, I'm painting it in this manner where it'll be stretched out on the object, and then I can shrink this overall size, and it will still be exactly the same, but it'll be a smaller resolution.
Right. I think
Somewhere in there was some useful information.
right. I think it's always better if you're going to apply a texture to it to go bigger to smaller than it is smaller to bigger, because obviously when you go smaller to bigger, it gets distorted and it doesn't look as good, as crisp.
Definitely, yep.
Okay, so now I'm back on track side here, and you can see how that where I split that. Obviously, that texture's not correct, so I need to. Did I get the right one? No, I didn't yet. So I gotta go forward, and there's my 508. There's the beloved 508. Take that off. Okay, now that's correct. Another 508 on the top, and backside's already been done. I go to the next text seg, which includes my wall logo. Another 508 on the backside. Top has a 508, so I'll uncheck that. And track side. And now we're all good. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's going to change. See, by adding that little end there, it's going to change my skew as far as how much I needed to scoot the logo up because of adding that little segment there. So now I got to adjust. Right now I got it at 5.05 meters. So now I'd have to lessen that so I can show. Nope, actually. Alright, I gotta change the better yet. Nope, I can leave that alone. Okay, this is what's kind of nice. You've got, okay, I just tried that. As you could probably tell, I tried to just change the skew, how much the texture itself was scooted up and or down from that wall section that I added. But what it's going to be is I just need to change where it actually starts. So in this case, all I need to do, right now it's at 28 meters, so I'll scale that back. Just put it at 27, you can see how it's revealing it. So it's just changing where it starts, and you have to think in terms of the direction of the track. So if it was the other way, I would have to increase it if I wanted it to be further up the track as far as the direction of the track. In this way, in this case, it's counterclockwise. So scoot, take a little bit more off. We'll shave a little bit more off that. See, now I'm completely revealed. But I'm going to scoot it up just a touch more. There we go. That looks better. I'll check the backside real quick. Yep, looks good.
Now, doing billboards like this, it's kind of like being a detective because I don't know what some of these companies are. Um, I'll go through, I'll just Google what I see and hope that that I come up with a good result. Um, I just matched the phone number from the billboard to this website, so I know it's the correct place.
You almost had the same type of deal too when you did that Xfinity logo, doing all those associate sponsors.
Yeah, that's why it takes 11 hours.
Just finding all those logos. I mean, if you can make them out, that's the best thing. But it's then just taking that logo. I guess you're gonna have to retrieve that off of that site now.
tend to get pretty lucky on these logos. I mean, these companies want their logos to be out there, so that helps a bunch.
Well, and they want it. Yeah, that's the latest thing anymore. The way these companies, they want to be represented properly, so they put all these nice juicy logos out there, especially the bigger ones. Oh, it's the smaller local ones, I guess, that get to be a difficult. You know, it's like when it's indigenous just to that area. I had that problem with Eldora. If it hadn't have been for participation of people actually going to the events there and taking pictures of the wall logos and such, I would have had no clue.
Yeah, things like car dealerships, that's where the detective work comes in because you got to sit there and Google a Dodge dealer that's around this track who would actually want to sponsor it.
Yep. And you hate to have to put something generic in there if you have to, especially if it's such a prestigious track, um, well known and such.
It does happen, but you definitely try to avoid it.
Yes. Well, I know what I was gonna. Next thing I'll show is since I split that segment there to have that wall in, I'll show properly. I'm gonna go into extended uh, views here, and what this will do. Okay, that's a racing surface, apron near pits. I want to go into surface types. There we go. So right now, the majority of the racing surface is grass. This brown is dirt. This is dirt. I probably sounding redundant here, but reminds me too. But this small segment that I did, if I really wanted to, in this segment here, I could apply a different property. In this case, I think I will do that, and I'm going to make it dirt on that F section there for that texture. As soon as I can select the segment section. Okay, there's the F section. It's on the clay too. And I'm going to unlock my materials up in the top right of the F section properties. Right now it's on grass and racing surface, the F section that I'm on. And I'm going to change it from grass to dirt. And as you'll see, and now that section right here has a dirt property in it, the same as the infield. So now what'll happen is, if you were to put this in the game and ran your car across this, it would actually puff up some dirt. And you can do this.
Nice.
I've found that by applying this same type of idea, I guess, to Eldora. And instead of having like the whole track, I guess, be dirt property and having all that smoke and dust and so on and so forth, to the point where you have to shut that feature off or that effect off in your graphics. That's not very fun. So just kind of splattering around these different and utilizing these small segments that you have to put in the track because of having to adjust that wall in. Use it to your advantage. You could do the same thing even on an asphalt track. Like say if you wanted to give it a little bit more grip. Granted, I would probably think it would work better if it was a bigger segment than what I've got here presented. But yeah, if you wanted to make it concrete as opposed to asphalt, so on and so forth, a paint property that would give you a little bit of grip, I guess. It would be a different property. It's a similar concept, I guess, as far as like applying BR grooves, multi grooves like into turns. Same concept. Okay, I'm gonna get out of this view. Go back to looking at my textures. Oh, sorry, TPIR. I think we missed you. I just noticed in the chat there you said you're back. I'm not sure how much you missed. Hopefully not too much. But keep in mind too, as far as any other viewers that are out there as well, that these feeds are getting put up on YouTube as an archive. It's on the SBP YouTube video channel. It has its own playlist, its own section under archive Twitch live feeds, live streams. You can watch those there. So in case you missed anything, you can pick them up there. I think James too is posting on his YouTube channel. Correct, James?
That is correct.
And what we're trying to do is we put links within the video itself, whatever, so that you can either have both of them going at the simultaneously. Because obviously in the multi-Twitch you can see that if you're in the live stream like viewers are now. You don't necessarily have that advantage in YouTube because they're separate. So we've been putting links in the actual videos, each individual video ourselves, so that you can go back and forth. Okay, what's next here? I had already adjusted this caution light from a previous session here. All I did was, and I'm not sure if I want to adjust the shields even more, these little blinders, because they were quite deep, I guess, on the original one. That don't really have a really good picture of the front side of those lights, but the ones that I do have, I can tell it does have the shields. They just don't look like they're quite that deep. I'm still on the fence, I guess, about if I should adjust those or not. But I guess while I'm at it, since I have this wall logo applied to front stretch wall near the starter stand, there are also wall logos, I think, in apexes of the turns. I know there is one in 3 and 4. I'm not positive. Maybe you can clarify this for me, James, in turns 1 and 2.
There is one right below the Toyota billboard, which will be billboard 7, so it's slightly past the apex.
Okay. And what might work better, I guess, with doing that, and I can probably put it just loosely into place, and then once I get those billboards from you, I can further tweak it out.
Right, I've got the picture up, but I don't know how much you can tell from that.
Yep, I'm looking at it right now. Yep, I see that. It's not quite the direct apex of the turn, yeah. Kind of offset from the
Yeah, it's more towards turn 2.
turn 2, yeah. Would it be turn 2 or turn 1? Maybe I'm looking at the picture wrong.
Yeah, that's turn 2 because the scoring stand, or the scoring screen, sorry, is just past the apex as well.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I saw that. That's probably something too that needs to. Is that something that you're implementing? Excuse me, you're implementing into the billboards, is the scoring?
Yeah, because it's going to be just a static object, right?
Right. Well, what I was thinking, I guess I didn't realize it was there until we just mentioned that. Yeah, I'm thinking that we'll have to get him in there to talk about that offline and see if maybe you can make that billboard maybe dynamic as far as like no display on the scoreboard during testing, and then have something on there during a race. That would be
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
It's a separate object, so it'd be pretty simple to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. I'd like to try to get elements like that implemented, I guess, as much as possible, because like during testing and whatever like that, you don't necessarily have anything like that showing. So during the race weekend itself. So what I'm going to do is loosely put into place this wall logo, I guess, offset the apex of 1 and 2. Let's go into our inbox view. Now, as you can see, this is the apex of the turn, this V. You can see the yellow bounding lines. That's an entire segment. So that's what makes up the apex of the turn. So what I'm gonna most likely want to do is put the Charlotte logo more towards this end of this segment. So I'm going to select that wall segment, wall section. Got my properties here. Right now I'm on the fence. That sounds funny when I keep saying it. I'm on the fence.
Undecided.
Right, yeah. Okay, there's the wall. The way I know that I'm on the wall without actually looking, zooming in on that is it's got wall dirt and I'm on the left side. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is go to camera. Approximately in that, looking at that same area as in the sandbox view. So what I'm going to do is add a text seg to that W section.
Jason, I'll be right back.
10-4. Okay, I'm going to do an add. And as you'll see, it removes that. Now, let me zoom out here a little bit. What it does is it takes a majority of that wall section, or that segment out, and only leaves just a sliver on the very end there, like I said, that 0.25. So what I'm going to do is zoom out like so, and I'm going to scoot this up to about where I want that logo to start showing. A lot of times it's the size of the segment is somewhat arbitrary. I tend to just plug in numbers to see where it lands. See, and you can see it scoots up a little bit. And then I'll go up just in increments of 5 meters from there to get it where I need it to go. See, I gotta go up quite a bit, so I'm gonna put a bigger number. Getting there. Yeah, we're getting closer now. Yeah, we're at 80 meters so far for that section. That's at 85. I'm gonna go with that. This is approximately the area I'm gonna put that wall logo. Okay, so now as you again, as you can see, I'm in TechSec 2. I'm at 85 meters from the beginning of that wall section, and I'm going to select my wall logo, and initially it'll show up. Override default text params. Change this 10.16 to a 1. There's my logo, and then I'm going to skew it. Split the difference on that. Now, and in this, obviously this particular situation, all I'm having to do is scoot it forward, so I'm using a positive number on the skew. If I wanted to go backwards, I would use a minus. I'll show that real quick. See, right now that the texture is showing like that, so if I wanted to go backwards and have the forward logo, I guess, show more than the trailing one, I'll do a minus. Let's try a -4. You'll see it goes the opposite direction of the track, so it goes clockwise as opposed to counter. Now I'm going to go forward. That looks about correct, and then what I'm going to do is tweak on the start up here, 85, let's do 85. A little more. See how it removes some of that on the end. As far as how much is revealed, let's do an 87. Okay, that's too much. Okay, that's an 86.25. That looks pretty close. And keep in mind too, I guess if I've only got one wall logo that I'm putting on this particular segment, this wall section. So if you had additional ones like that, you would add other sections there, and you would adjust much the same way as I'm doing right now. But as you can see, it's showing the entire texture that I want visible on that particular face of the wall. Now I'll adjust the forward end here. Oh, and TPIR, I'm sorry, I might have missed your chat there. Um, as far as how long tracks take, like it depends on the size of the track. Like this track right now, obviously you can see between James and I working on this, and we do work on the tracks offline as well, as far as doing our homework, if you will. And typically a track like this, when you have help, the more people is usually the better. Sometimes that can get messy. You got too many working at the same time, but generally, in the situation that we're in, it probably take 6 months to a year. That seems to be the baseline or the common amount of time. Now for the bigger tracks, I can say, and James could probably echo me on this. Daytona, I know we had back in the day there when the current Daytona that's out for SBP anyway. That's in a culmination of about 4 years of time. Hope that answers your question. Yeah, this track here, that's what James and I have been talking online. This one should be done rather quickly, um, mainly because we're just motivated. Doing these live feeds, it really motivates, because not only do the fans and the viewers and such out there want to see how this process works, but they'd also like to see it get done. So and talking with James offline there too. Again, it was just like I kind of almost wish I would have done something like this when I'd done Eldora. It would have been done a lot sooner than it did, because that one in itself took me um, a consecutive 2 years. I had a beta out by the end of the first year, and that was with tons of help. Um, and another year, I guess, to get it to where it is currently, based on the public release. Okay, I was adjusting this wall texture. Okay, I'm on the left side, and tech seg 2. And for this one, what I need to do is add another segment to basically stop this. The only thing I want to show is from this side of the SMI logo. So from here over, I want gone. So what I have to do is add another tech seg. And what it's going to do is going to make it go away. And then I'm going to have to include, I guess, the logo in this next number, so I know it's going to be higher than the 8625. That's currently showing. That's going to be more like 100.
All right, I'm back.
Good to have you back. I was just explaining to TPIR there in the chat about, he was asking about how long it takes us to do certain tracks, and got done explaining that to him. Okay. Yeah, and see, this is the other thing that's kind of nice about Sandbox is if you put a number in your text as far as like where the texture is starting, and if it's too big, it'll basically tell you, nope. See, I ended up putting 100 in there, and actually it only goes to 98.60, and it always leaves a cushion. It's always going to leave a little bit of a cushion because it doesn't want you to step on. That's just somewhat of a safety feature, I guess, that it has there, so that make sure you don't step on one that might already be there, a texture that's already there. So I need to scale this back a little bit. Okay, that's too much. That's a little closer. Small numbers make a big difference.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and load the track up here and take a look at what I have so far.
Cool. Yeah, that looks about right. So I got it at 9625. See, what it's doing is it's just shooting over just slightly more. And what I'll do is I'll apply the wall of dirt beyond that. Override. Change it to a
All right, take a look at that.
Oh, see what we got here. Zoom out just a touch. Oh yeah, that's nice. Yep. Now, from my angle there, and that might be just the perspective of the picture too. To me, it almost looks like they might be set too far away from the wall. I'm just nitpicking right now. I'm not.
Now they're set exactly using the linear guide and the Earth image.
Okay. And like I said, I think it's just the perspective. And the same thing when I was showing, I guess, the wall logo in comparison to the starter stand. You can't
There you
get
go. There's the track view.
Yeah, the exact same perspective. I can't get over how clear that looks. Even just, I'm looking at the multi-twitch, and that's, wow, I can read that like that is just insanely beautiful.
And you can also see where when I scrunch those logos up, now that it's on that wider billboard, it actually looks correct.
Right. I remember you showing me that AT&T one there with all that stuff in there. It's like, you were like, cool, I don't even have to make that.
Yeah. Looks like the Toyota logo might need a slight adjustment.
Off center, you mean, or?
Looks like I made the T too wide and the Toyota too skinny.
Oh, I got you. You adjust those separately then?
Yeah.
Actually, see now I'm looking at okay where I applied my wall logo here. I can see there's a little bit of a line. What I'm gonna do is scale this start back just a skosh. You can see how probably kind of hard to see there, but it's eliminating that. That looks better. I'll put the other facades on top and back side. And there's the wall logo in place. You can see. Let me span this out. It still might need adjustment, but it's roughly in the ballpark for now. I'll put my top and the back side on. Probably one thing that's probably a fair note when you're building your tracks to make sure all your textures that you're going to potentially use, what have you, that they're in your unpacked folders. Because in Sandbox, you're not able to browse to a separate place. So like whatever track that you're working into, in this case this track is going to be named DTA underscore Charlotte. All your textures for your objects and or geometry in your track mat needs to be there because you're not able to browse outside of that in Sandbox, so it must be in there. The little FYI. One thing I suppose that's nice about Sandbox is even when you're still in a session, as I am right now, for instance, and you put new textures in there as you know before you even close it out, they will show up in the drop down as not used. Okay, I'm in that. Let me go back down to TextSeg 2. Okay, that was the top. So now I'm gonna do the back side, which would be the right. I have to excuse my voice there to any of our viewers that are out there too. I'm over a little bit of a cold. Sound a little rough. Apologize.
Gotta love this time of year. I think I
Yeah.
made it through all winter without getting sick. I think that's the first time that's happened in a long time.
Doesn't impede me from what I like to do though. I'll be darned.
It's closer, but I still need to do some adjustment there.
And we now have wall logo in turns 1 and 2. Now I'll go to turns 3 and 4 and do the same thing. Okay, now all I'm doing here is basically doing the same thing I did in 1 and 2. I have selected the track segment of the apex of 3 and 4. So that includes all the way into here. I'm going to bring up a picture of what I have. Not that one, obviously. Of the wall logo that's in that end of the track. Which is right here. So that one's slightly off center too, now that I think of it, so they must be like directly in line with each other. One end to the other. Like if you looked from the turn 3-4, it would be like straight across through the infield, like to the other side, it'd be lined right up, I bet. I really have no reference. You know something I just noticed, James? Right on the fence, and I think you might have mentioned this to me, but I totally missed that. Apologize, but there are actually signs or banners tied to the fence, like STP and Goodyear, so on. I totally missed those. Just up till now. Yeah, I was worried I was gonna have to deal with this wall end too for this wall opening for pit entrance, which I don't, which is good for me. So this is the area where I'll be applying it. It's going to be much the same as I did in 1 and 2. It's going to be towards this end. So I'm going to scoot this up. That looks pretty close.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, there's some grandstands on the backstretch too.
Yeah, they're just bleachers. Yeah. Yeah, Matt had mentioned that to me. You know, next to all the haulers and stuff that are out there, the trailers and.
I just noticed for the off-road truck race, they actually have dirt ramps and stuff on the actual track.
Right, that's just for that event, right? I don't think we have it necessary to do that. But you know, I still keep going back, and every time I come into this track and do some work on it, that come up with some type of thing to depict that infield without the ramps, obviously. But they do have those dirt paths, I guess, for the safety vehicles and stuff. Um, I'm still thinking that what would work best, because obviously you still have the black hole that's in the center. Do a 3DO for that to fill that void, and then use TSDs textured up, I guess, to create those paths. It's still what I'm thinking might be the best way, as opposed to making a 3DO that has all that included in it, if that makes sense, to clarify.
Right.
It seems to me that you would have a little bit more adjustability in having the TSD separate from the 3DO. See, on this particular one here, I've already got it on the head of the tail end of it, as I call it. That looks fine. It's just the forward end there, I gotta adjust that. Sometimes you can just nail it. And more than likely we'll have to tweak this logo on the wall once we get the stuff to reference as far as based on the real pics. But for now, I think this will be close. Add another text egg.
It's looking better. I think I'll come back to that a little bit later.
Oh, that Toyota logo yet?
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes you can sit there and beat you up. You look at it, you stare at it like, a little bit more.
As far as the objects go, each one of these are numbered differently, and you can kind of see what I was talking about earlier with the red and white on this side, and then you fly through the other side, and it's blue and yellow on the back.
Yeah, that's actually. See, I've gotten in the habit like when I've done billboards where there's like a similar situation there. What I'll do is I'll just take the texture that goes on that, if it's either one piece or separate, and I'll just put numbers on them. So they'll have white background with a number on it. That's a different approach. I like that idea with the HTM like you showed earlier. It's pretty.
I didn't show you the drag grandstand either. Let me show you that real quick.
Well, you showed me one offline, but it was really tough to see it. And what I think would probably be most crucial, most beneficial, I guess, to look at it from track view. You know, as far as like being on the track, because that's really where you're gonna be able to see it. Yeah, you see, you're looking over in that direction. Now, as far as that stand goes, the jegs and all that stuff, the billboard, the banner, whatever that's on it, is that gonna go on there as well?
Separate plane object.
Okay. That would really make that thing stand out, I think.
You're definitely going to be able to see the bigger one over top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, the one on the opposite side of the drag, I mean.
Yeah, and you'll be able to see that media center at the far end there.
Right. Okay, I need to scoot this up just a tad more.
There are a lot of sponsored banners that are actually attached to the fence. Did you have any thoughts on how to accomplish that?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you heard me when I said that. I just noticed that looking at this turn 4, particularly in turn 3. But right where the Charlotte logo that I'm applying in 3 and 4, there's a one tied to the fence.
Yeah, there's a series of them in turn 3 going into the apex, and there's a series of them coming off of turn 2 after the main billboards.
Okay, that I wasn't aware of that either. I just happened to notice these ones in 3, and then the one right in line with the Charlotte logo on the wall. I can tell you from experience when I did the Eldora build, all I did was I created a 3D model of the track, so I had conformity, you know, the geometry, I guess, of the track, in a 3D model, and then I just conformed those to that. And what I did is just created a flat plane. I guess that's what I needed to. Created a flat plane in that contour of the turn, then made them separate. In fact, I could probably bring that up real quick. Go to my Eldora build. That seemed to work out pretty well that way. I guess next to creating a, putting the actual signs like in the fence texture itself. I did try it that way, and that didn't turn out very well. Let me see here. Going into my Eldora build. All my goodies here. Okay, I have. Okay, that was the ones that are behind the wall, but not the ones that are on the fence. I'm trying to remember. See, here's an example here of how I put. This is actually applied to a fence texture, but this is next to the way station in the Eldora build. It's got the E-Bach right on the fence texture itself. But oh, here's the fence signs. So I say, what the heck did I do with them? Yeah, here we go. I don't know if you can see that here in the feed there, James. These are actually on, and they're conformed actually to the geometry of the fence for the track. This is for Eldora, obviously. And all I did was I created a 3ds of the track geometry, threw that in Max, and then created a flat plane all the way through there. And then I just placed that. It's at 0, 0, as far as the coordinates for it. So it ends up being right behind the fence. It makes it look like it's tied to. And here's show you the texture. This is the texture for it. Catching any of that, James? Just making sure. 'Cause I know my mic keeps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
I know my mic keeps acting up on me here.
You don't happen to have a higher resolution for that Ferris mowers, do you?
Ferris motors.
Mowers?
Oh yeah, that I had to create. It's actually done in Illustrator. Let me see if I do.
Yeah, because one of them I need is that one.
Really? That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think. Gotta look in my.
You can find it later if you need to. That's fine.
Oh no, this is all my. I remember having to make that in Illustrator. Here it is. Actually, I got it. Thought I had it layered somewhere. How's this one?
Yeah.
That work?
Yeah, do you have the text? Because I think there's text on there too.
No, I had to add that. Now, it's like I said, I thought I had a layered one somewhere, but I think all I did was just add it. Once I made the sign, I might have it. Let me see. Might not be that big. I did the fence signs, but I have a PSD for the fence signs here. Let me open that up. Yeah, so I've got these all layered, and I think this is a that's not completely loaded. What's going on? Let's try that paint shop. There we go. See, this is what I did, James. This is to give you an example of how I've done it as far as like doing billboards. So I just did this like that, and I have a grid that tells me, I guess, which billboard is what. In this case, it was 25 billboards. I like your approach. That approach is pretty slick.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yep. But see, I've got the one I showed you previously of the Ferris is not quite as big in here. Let me segregate that. It's all a merged layer, but it has the text in there. See if I could segregate this. Yeah, I think all I ended up doing is the Ferris, I did that in Illustrator, and then I just added the text afterwards. Turn that feather off. Okay, see what I did. Yeah, this doesn't end up being quite as nearly as big as I did, but it'll give you an idea, I suppose. I can send you the bigger logo, and then you have something to reference. I guess it's for the text, if you like.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
But the one I did for the billboard is smaller. I scaled it down. I'll save this one.
I found the Wix filter logo, but apparently it's not the entire logo that's on the billboard.
What's it missing?
Basically, the bottom half. It's the We Love Engines with the filter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Dang it. Can't win them all.
Suppose I could go buy a Wix filter and take a picture of it.
Oh, there you go. We've done that before.
Yeah, it looks like the picture of the filter is the one from their box.
Road trip.
Yeah. Yeah, I might stop by Advance on the way home tomorrow.
Okay, I've just sent you that Ferris logo. You'll be able to do something with that.
All right, got it.
Chat is still staying relatively quiet.
Yeah, feel free to speak up, guys, if you have any questions or want to talk about anything. Just let us know.
We're about as interested, I guess, it's probably you are sometimes, Alright, that's right. Just finishing up my wall logo in turns 3 and 4 here. Didn't go nowhere. I guess it didn't finish itself. Once I get this done, I'm gonna do a save. You go too long without doing a save. There, now we got something to look at both ends of the track and the start finish line. See that down there. Coming along. I have to take another ride around this thing, James.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, not right now, but I'll save that for the end of the stream.
All right.
Yeah, that was way I can show. And I know you and I have our differences, I guess, as far as like plugging the PTF and the unpacked files, I guess, into the game. I like to pack it up. It gives me a better sense myself to understand how big the data is, how much room it's going to take, as well as making sure that I'm naming the PTF and appropriate files properly, and then just getting into that habit, disciplining yourself to, because eventually, when it's all said and done, when you get to the final product, that's what you're going to have to do anyway. So if you practice, I guess, the fact that the, the track is done and treat it as such, you'll get into the habit to making sure all your stuff is in there, named properly, and it's become second nature. It is to me anymore, it's just to do it that way.
Seems like almost every one of these billboards has ads for Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, I, and the funny thing is, and I may have totally just uh, not bothered with it or whatever. I mean, there's so much with even Eldora, as far as sponsorships. I mean, it's you could probably remember back when we did the Richmond update, and I speak particularly of the 2007. It's like I think they got every inch of that track has got some type of ad on it. I mean, to next to every blade of grass. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I mean, it's like really.
That whole process that you were doing with the walls, doing all those wall logos, it's the same process. And oh my goodness.
For Richmond, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's like every inch of that track has got some type of ad. It's that to me that's really the only track that seems to have the most is Richmond because Bristol doesn't even seem that bad. Dora was kind of like somewhere in the middle. I mean, it was like some of it I just had to say, okay, enough's enough. you know. Now they keep talking about, and I had made a post on the the SPP Facebook fan page there about the NASCAR sanction tracks applying the safer barrier, um, both inside and outside, all the way around the tracks, the NASCAR sanction tracks in particular. I have yet to see that happen yet. They talk about it a lot, but as far as actually implementing it, it'd be interesting to see how that goes. I know you had mentioned, James, about um, the heads over at Daytona International. They are already looking into investing in doing that. So
It needs to happen. I mean, um, yeah, I mean, it just needs to happen.
well, the only reason why I suppose I mention that is you notice like when they do the television broadcasts, the individual foams in like particular areas, like in turns 1 or 2, outside the turns, they're actually painting sponsors on those individual foam blocks. So I guess the point being is like, can you imagine the potential? I guess as far as how many sponsors could actually be represented? I guess if you were to paint different sections of safer on those individual foam blocks between the inside and the outside of the walls. You got that Ferris one? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Lose sight of that. Okay. I have both. Looks like I have all my wall logos applied. So what I'm gonna do a save. All that good. Seeing what's really interesting is looking at just right now, currently, what I have as far as PTFs in this session alone between last night and now. I have I think 3 of them in there, but it is not uncommon when you're doing saves like at least every hour, minimum of every hour. I would strongly suggest. It's nothing to have probably good 75 to 100 PTFs by the time it's all said and done. This is what I've got so far just for this build since it started back in March of this year. I have 33 of them so far. So with the 3 that are in there, that's 36 PTFs so far for this build.
Talking about different systems, I usually do maybe 5 in the folder, then I'll back the entire folder up, and then I'll start overwriting the first one. It's a little bit risky to do that. I gotta say that.
Right. I know we've talked about that offline too. See, I like to keep them. Um, right now, what I'm going to do, I have these 3 PTFs in the unpack folder in my track editing directory, which is totally separate from the game, mind you. And what I'll end up doing once we're done here is I'll take those out. I'll leave the very last one that I saved, then I'll continue from that, and then I don't touch that PTF. Once I save it, that's done. I don't touch it again. Only to open the previous session up, and then I'll save it as a new PTF from then that forward on. And I've gotten into the habit of, instead of just doing, and this is different across. I've talked to other dabblers in Sandbox. Some will just number them. Some will date them as a tag to the PTF. What I tend to do, somewhat of a combination of both. So far, what I've been doing is just putting. So far, it says DTA lows underscore add wall speedway, so that I know what I did. Like if I know if I'm adding an object or if I actually had to adjust some heights, X sections, what have you, I'll know where to go back to. It saves you a lot of headache to do it in that fashion, I found.
I don't know if you saw that, but I actually found the font that matches almost perfectly to the Carolinas Healthcare System logo.
Yeah, every once in a while you can get lucky that even with the Charlotte logo that I did, I still have that in PSD. Um, yeah, one of the fonts that I had, I think it was just Impact, to be honest. In fact, I'll bring that up. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how sometimes you can just have that font. You don't have to fudge it or modify it or anything. Yeah, here's this is the layered PSD that I did for the Speedway logo on the wall. And it ended up just being Impact. I've already rasterized it. It's no longer vector, but all I did was at first, and this is something that I go back and forth between Photoshop and Paint Shop. Um, I started off with typing the text in Paint Shop, and it ends up being straight up and down. It's not skewed as far as the Charlotte text. I found I'll go ahead and save. I went ahead and rasterized that, saved that as a layer, opened it up in Photoshop, in your case CS6, and then skewed that. I just gave it a slight tilt on the text there. It makes all the difference because I think I still have the original before I skewed it. Yeah, here's before I skewed it. I just done that in Paint Shop, and that's just Impact font. And what I did was I opened that in Photoshop, skewed it. And you can tell if I put these two together, it's got a slight skew to it. It kind of leans. this here I got it all layered. It's a 1024 by 128 high. I can turn off the different layers. See, and I had an SMI logo that I used for, let's say it was Bristol, and all I did was shrunk that down. I took out the white that's around it to match what's on the wall, because that's what the picture reference I had, that's the way it was depicted. So and close that one. Okay, I'm gonna take some dimensions here while I'm thinking right off the top, because that black hole in the center there is just starting to irritate me now. Use my linear guide. Okay, that's showing up about 147 point, oh, it says 24 meters. If I make it a 148, that should be fine. That'll give it a nice overlap. And what's the other way? And 47 will work. So 147 by 47 will work. Actually, I could go 148 by 47. That sounds better. That sounds better. Do some modeling. Don't have a texture for it yet, but we'll get there. Okay, I got my max fired up, and I'm gonna go on this top view. I use the quad viewports. This is perspective. Currently I got top, front, left, and perspective. I'm going to use the top view to make a plane, those dimensions that I just took in Sandbox. Usually what I end up doing for this one, since it's going to be fairly flat, I'm not going to have to adjust trajectory or any slopes or anything to it. It's going to be relatively flat. I'm going to take out the length and width segs and just make it a 1. By default, I'm using max 5. That seems to work the best for me because it has the pass exporter that I usually need to use. I'm going to change the length and the width segs for this plane that I'm going to lay down to a 1 as opposed to a 4. That's just what I know works the best through experience. That's going by memory. Okay, so in this top view, I'm going to lay it down, and it'll show me up to the right there as far as like what size, and I can adjust it afterwards, but no, that's way too big. I can tell that already. So I want my width to be 148. I've got max units set up in meters as well, so that's 1-to-1 there.
Yeah, you can get some crazy scaling going on if you change that.
Oh yeah. I had at one point, I opened the scene, it was a render scene at one point there, and you know how it asks you, I guess, to change the units to the file and or the system, and I clicked on the wrong one. Yeah, that had me all jacked up.
Yeah, definitely do not change it.
Right, adopt it to the system. Once you set that in your customization as far as like what unit setup went in there, if you ever open a render scene and it asks you to adopt the file units, don't select that. FYI. Okay, so I've got my 47 wide, 148 meters. Okay, I'm gonna center this. I can tell that I'm centered because I got this. When you keep it panned out on top view, you can see this cross section here, so you know that's center. I'm gonna slide this over just to get it more centered. And what that's gonna do is, like I said, that measurement I took in Sandbox, that plane, as you can see in the perspective view, is going to cover this hole right here. And I could have really gotten really tricky with this thing, and James, you can chime in too. Probably I could see the approach you probably would have took to it is probably add, like possibly even take a 3ds of the geometry here, actually make that conform, I guess, to the size of that hole. I'm simply using a squared off plane. It's gonna be set slightly under track anyway.
Yeah, as you well, because in testing, I think is the only time you'd ever see anything, and you might be able to see a slight gap. The infield itself is fairly flat, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the only time you run into issues with that is like at Watkins Glen, where you're building on top of a hill, basically,
Right.
where you might be able to see through the gap.
Well, not only that, but like if, like I was saying, as far as like changing the width and the length segments of this plane I just laid out, um, yeah, because it's so flat there, and I could probably show that in Sandbox. Um, there's no need to have any slopes or whatever applied to this 3DO that I'm going to create for that area. It'll basically just float just a thousandth, 0.001, just float right underneath the black hole there, and you'll barely be able to see a gap because of it being so flat. Now we'll probably show that, maybe not this session, but the next session or so, depending on if I
Yeah, we're
can.
coming up on 2 hours, by the way.
Roger that. Thank you for that. Trying to think of a texture to put on this thing. I know I've got several. Common one I tend to use is a similar one I use for oh my goodness, what I do with that Portland. That's what I was trying to think there. That's another project that I'm working on is a Portland. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Yeah, that's something I'll probably have to put together as far as a texture for that. Close these things out.
Nice. That's a very good size logo.
For which one?
University of Northwestern Ohio.
UO, yeah.
That's interesting that they're sponsoring a track in North Carolina, isn't it?
No kidding. I mean, they use that on a lot of tracks. Kentucky. There's a couple other tracks that use that. Hey, pay the money, we'll put it up there, right?
Looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going into my. Kind of getting off track here a little bit. No pun intended there. Going into my Portland build. This is just something else I've been working on inside. I've got an infield object texture. Okay, I see what I did now. Yeah, let's see. I might not want to use that. I'm thinking maybe I got another one. I got plenty of tracks up my sleeve here. Another track that's in the works here. It's called Grand Rapids Speedrome. Yeah, that's more what I'm thinking of. Oh, that one's small too. Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do this in another session, but start to bring this to a close if that's all right with you, James.
Yeah, that's fine. Did you want to do another one this evening, or?
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I really would like to get something more put together, so I'm kind of running out of here to go over. This is going to take a while, I guess, to get some texture applied to this infield and such, and then I can show that in another stream.
Okay, that's fine.
But for now, I guess what I'll do is I'll at least go through some of the steps here, I guess, to add texture to what I've got already laid out here in Max. It's going to be fairly simple, I think. For now, let's see. Why don't I want to do? We're getting some stuff done. That's what's positive.
Definitely. That's hopefully what you guys are taking away from this is, paying attention to different mod makers and stuff. For the last, I don't know how long it's been, 12 years or so, you guys that aren't making the mods, I guess the consumer, I guess you would call it, but the user, uh, you basically just sit back and wait for screenshots and different things to be posted on various different websites. Hopefully, this is kind of showing you the behind the scenes and why it takes so long for things to get done. Hopefully, you guys can appreciate that a little bit better by these streams.
Yes, it does definitely take some time. And I know TPIR in the chat, he had mentioned that earlier in the stream um, about how long it takes. And it's not like we're just, life obviously does get in the way too. But even if you were to put as much time as what we're doing right now, it still takes relatively a amount of time. And that time that I mentioned earlier when I said, I tried to explain as far as how long it takes, that's just including how much sit time on the track. That doesn't necessarily mean all the downtime. So, I guess when I say downtime, it's like any time that we're not working on the track, we're not including that time. you know, in the entire build. It's good to be organized here. See, like I have a track projects folder, and this is obviously not even all of them, but some of the tracks I have in here, like I mentioned, Portland. I got a couple other short tracks I would like to get to eventually. Got a local track in here, Tri-City Motor Speedway, which is now dirt, but I'm gonna represent it as the asphalt that it was back in the day. Lots of stuff going on. I have most of my dirt tracks in a separate. Normally for dirt tracks, I get commissioned by particular leagues. In this case, it's TWA, which stands for Team Whoop Ass. I don't care if they censor me or not.
That's fine. You have to be 13 to be registered on Twitch.
Good group of guys there. They've given me a lot of inspiration, I guess, to dabble in playing in the sandbox with dirt tracks. A lot of different. It's like a totally different animal, which is actually kind of nice because it takes away from all the just the craziness that can develop, I guess, when you're working on an asphalt, because you want to get that so perfect, because that's what the sim was designed for initially. You got some room, I guess, to be creative, I guess, with dirt tracks. Alright, got my textures in there. Let's go back into max. Now that I've got the size the way I need it here, what I'm going to do is open up a UVW unwrap modifier. Go to the rollout here. Okay, that's now applied, and then what I'm going to do is go to my material editor, select that texture that I want to put on there.
There's the progress on the billboard so far.
Yeah, they're definitely getting there. See, now look at how long it's taking you just to do just those few there. Again, going back to time it takes. Okay, I've got my material that I want to apply to this plane, my material editor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a show map and viewport and apply to selection. And loosely it'll show up on there. I don't think I'm going to adjust the mapping to it. Now I'm just going to leave it like it is, and I'll render this real quick just to show you what it looks like in max, which would be translate when I get it into sandbox. Oh wow, maintain that. That's interesting. That's basically what it'll look like in sandbox. And that's without even adjusting the. I could go in there and adjust the how much how that's presented, that texture is presented on that plane. But for now, I'm gonna leave it alone. So what I will do is I will create a pass for this, and as James has shown before in the past too, it is totally possible. I could just take this, save it as a 3ds. If you have 3D SimEd, you can run that through 3D SimEd. But with this particular object, I do not want to have a population switch in it. to the point where if you hit your O key in the game, I don't want that to disappear. I want it to stay there. So I'm going to create a pass file. I can add that to it. There's pros and cons, I guess, to creating models. Once you create models, like in James's case there, I think he's been running his models through 3D SimEd, correct, James?
Yes.
And there's pros and cons, I guess, to using that. Don't want to get yourself necessarily accustomed to always running all your objects through 3D SimEd. In some cases, whatever, if you have stage switches in there, dynamic features to it for race weekend and such like that. In my experience, whatever like that, I think it's best to run it through a script.
Definitely. Um, you have to watch the model itself. If you're on the limit of how many polygons you can have in the model, which is, when you run it through 3D SimEd, it can actually split up the model even more and add more polygons than what you had in Max. So that can get you into trouble there.
Right, and I think that's the pros and cons, I suppose, of using 3D SimEd as opposed to um, Max. Yes. Um, Made a good point there. I'm going to show that as soon as I get this saved. With the polygons, the number of polygons. We've run into some issues with polygons and some objects that we're trying to add to some of these tracks. Okay, so first what I'm going to do is save a 3DS. Yep, there's my 3DS, and I'm going to create this pass file. I think as we mentioned in other streams too, in order for this pass exporter to work, it's a plugin for Max that you have to put into plugins folder. The only versions of Max that it will work into is up to Max 8. Anything beyond Max 8 it will not work. So if you have a newer version, like say, I do have a working version of 2014, it will not work in there. So okay, so now I have my pass file. I've saved my 3DS. Keeping in mind also, if you don't save a 3DS of your model and only as a pass file, you will not be able to open that model again through the pass. The pass is its only purpose is as an export. There's no way to be able to open a pass file other than running it through the Make 3DO utility, which is a DOS program. I've shown that in a previous stream. So now where this sits, now I can take this pass file, put it into Make 3DO, and I think I'm going to save that for another session. I think that's where I'm going to call it quits there. But just to give viewers out there to know this is where we're at right now.
Yep, sounds good.
That's a good place to call it quits for now.
Pay attention to the SBP Facebook page and my Twitter, and we'll let you know if we're going to come back and stream later this evening. So,
Yes, please do like the SBP fan page. As James says, he also has a Twitter account. Keep an eye on those. Turn your notifications on for Twitch to let you know too by email as far as when we're going live. Don't want you to miss anything. But also, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, we are posting these as these live streams archived up on YouTube. Each of our own, the SPP YouTube channel, as well as James has got his, and we're bubbling those within each of our own videos, I guess, to link to each video. So you'll be able to watch, get the same experience as you do on the multi-twitch, to some degree at least anyway, right?
Yep. Hopefully, you guys had fun, and we'll probably catch you next time. Thanks.